Andrew, finally, we're getting to sit down and talk. So thank you. Appreciate you for coming.
Hey, man.
I know
Thanks
this
for
was
having me on.
last minute. Thank you for making the drive. The good thing is you were going to come here anyway because you wanted to rent some cables. So
Yep.
I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to sit down and talk and just, I don't know, talk video. I think we can do that anyway, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how have things been?
Pretty good, man. Yeah.
So, just so people who don't know you, what do you do? So, obviously you have a job, so you do this full time.
Yeah, I'm full-time at a ministry here in Orlando. I do kind of everything, When I started, I was hired on just to do social media, and the longer I've been here, the more stuff gets on my plate. So I shoot, I produce, I edit, a little bit of everything.
And the good thing is, which you have a collaborator, Quentin, who we've had on the podcast. So you guys get to travel internationally a lot too. Like you're mentioning to me before we
Yeah.
started, like you're gonna go fly now to Brazil. So that is one advantage of working with the ministry. You're getting to travel to cool destinations while doing your work, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I've been to Africa twice with them to shoot B-roll. Now I'm going to Brazil and Germany this year to engineer some live streams, and yeah, it's been a really crazy opportunity.
That's so good. And then obviously you do a lot of live production. What do you prefer? Do you prefer just B-roll shooting? Because that's what you've helped me with,
Yeah.
freelancing on my projects. But then for the ministry, you're doing a lot of live stuff. Do you have a preference or?
I think I definitely prefer live production. Yeah, I'm a IT major, and I decided that I didn't really want to do IT, so I picked up a camera, and the live streaming has been a really good in between for me, where I get to do the engineering and do the more technical stuff, but still in the world of media production.
So how did you get into video?
I started at a church, my home church growing up. I volunteered on the video team. Really, really simple. It was an old Sony composite out into a OBS machine, and I ran camera for a while, and then when they were due for an upgrade, I helped pick out cameras and stuff, and somewhere along the line, I bought a Panasonic G7, and I started doing photos. Did a couple really bad weddings, and I still love photography. That's why I got the little camera tattoo. My love of photography, but somewhere along the line, I kind of realized video was more in my passion. It was a little more technical, so that's where I've gone.
That's incredible to hear. So I know we've had these discussions anytime you freelance for me, but like you've obviously you have a full-time job somewhere, you're getting to do cool things, you're getting to travel, but then this freelance idea sounds really awesome too, where you can be your own boss, potentially make a lot more money.
Yeah.
Brings a lot more freedom, but there's obviously risks because if you've wife and kid, well, no, you don't have
Not kids
right?
yet.
But wife,
Yeah.
but you have a family, you have bills to pay, and it's an inherent risk.
Yeah.
So as somebody who's like dabbling that, talk to me a little bit more. Like I want to, like what goes through your brain, why, what has your debate been internally at least?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's always been a logical, pros and cons list for me. So, CFAN is the best job I've had so far. And I like the 9-to-5 structure. I like the opportunities I've got. If I'm freelance, I know I have to, work harder to get clients, to build my own gear, to really rely on myself, where I've got to do some really cool stuff at the ministry I work with that I wouldn't have gotten to do if I was freelance, like traveling, like playing with a lot of cool toys. We've built a 10 camera studio, and it's awesome. I got to do a lot of cool stuff. So it's balancing, whether I'm, consistent money, but maybe a little bit less versus freelance. So I definitely think I want to go freelance. But it's, like you said, working out, how I can make that happen and, not losing income. At some point it's chicken and the egg. I got to jump ship or.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like I said, somebody who's done that, like I said, it was one of the hardest decisions.
Yeah.
To leave but my job wasn't in video. So it's somewhat easier because, you're at least doing something what you like. So, and I was like, struggling mentally because I'm like, I hate this job. I'm not happy, but then it's paying all the bills, and then you have benefits and insurance and all that. So it's an inherent risk that you're taking because you're like, oh, I'm gonna give everything up just so I can potentially make more money, right? And luckily, obviously, it worked out. but I know a lot of people it hasn't worked out for you. So you have to be smart about it.
Yeah.
But at some point, you have to take a leap of faith, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here today, right?
Yeah.
So, but I get it. But I get that you're being logical about it. You're also kind of trying to make sure you don't make a wrong move, because you got a life going on and you don't want to have a reduction in income.
Yeah.
So
a little bit of it's like I've never had any formal training. I didn't go to Full Sail or something. I just the YouTube University. Everything I've learned was either making mistakes or watching videos. So for me, working at the ministry I work with in video production has been a really good opportunity to try stuff and learn with a team setting. So before I tried to do freelance photography, and like I said, I did some bad weddings and I did some good work and stuff in there, but it was a struggle. And especially the business side is something that I am so not into. Creative side, technical side, I got it down. But the ministry has been a really great opportunity for me to learn a lot.
What would make you say that those are bad weddings? What'd you do to screw it up that bad?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of things I didn't realize. Doing weddings, you got to be on the ball. You got to predict what's going to happen next. That's their one shot to get the kiss, and if you miss it, that's it. So there's just a lot of stuff I had to learn.
Yeah, it is tough. I've never done a wedding, so I don't want to speak on it. But from talking to enough people that do them for a living, I do think it's easy as far as technicality goes, but it's very hard because, like you said, you have to be able to predict. You have to be able to be at the right moment, because it's only going to happen once.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you can't just replicate a moment, and if you miss it, then you're missing their future, so they can come back and watch it. So like I said, it's easy and hard at the same time. So I get it, especially if you're new. You don't know where to be and where to position yourself to get that moment.
And especially early on, I'm learning what I'm doing, and I'm not a people person by nature. I'm an introvert 100%. So learning the technical side while also learning to put myself out there and kind of be in charge of a situation, like it was a lot to learn all at once.
Yeah, I could get that. But the good thing is it's a very similar path. I've talked to a lot of people who have gotten to video this way, that they just wanted to help their local church. And, through that, they learned and fell in love with doing video, because, that is part of what churches need, especially after the pandemic. I remember, I was in Alabama, there's a church like literally every 5 steps. So, but like a lot of them were struggling because, some were doing video, obviously, but a lot of them were not. And then immediately it's like, oh no, you got to go virtual everything. And if you don't, you're going to lose your congregation to some other church or whatever. And they don't want to do that. Right. So it was like, I saw the panic firsthand. People had to like really, really catch up to technology. So, but people like you are very necessary, because you're the bridge, right? You're the gap that's between the viewers and the message, right? But that's one way to learn video production.
Yeah.
So and like I said, it's a path I've seen a lot of people follow.
Yeah.
But the negative side of it is, you don't make that much money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're doing something fun. You're playing, and I've seen the CFAN Studio, beautiful place. Like you said, I love those control rooms and everything that you guys have built. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, like I said, it's not gonna pay you as well as what you can make just being even a cam op.
Right.
So what's your path? Like, what are you thinking now? Are you, because like I said, you have a cool studio you work in, you get to travel the world. How and when do you see this freelance thing happening?
That's an excellent question. Yeah. I mean, like I said before, it's a bit of a chicken and the egg situation. I gotta jump ship to be available, but I can't jump ship until, I have some income there. So man, I'm just trying to say yes to everything at the moment. You mentioned Quentin. Yeah. I've done a lot with him. We're doing more work in the next couple weeks, and I'm just really taking everything I can to hopefully build some connections and make some extra income on the side. And then, hopefully as that continues to grow, at some point I'll be able to, at least replace enough income that I can jump and
exactly. No, you've helped me every time you've come out and helped me in any of the gigs that I have. It's been great. I love the footage that you're capturing. You definitely have an eye, especially the types of shoot you've helped me. I don't think we've done a like a shoot where we got to light and everything yet. I think all they
Yeah.
have been event shoots, which is here's the crazy part. I say it's event shoots are easier again because we don't have to like light and it's not that complicated, but you have to be at the right spot. You have to get the moment, and if you don't get the moment, then you miss it because
Yeah.
it's live or it's an event. Like very rarely can you just ask them to redo. Like at the last one where I still remember what was it that we missed.
The halftime.
No, we got the halftime. No, we missed the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, yeah. Pledge Allegiance.
Yeah, because we were filming something and we got it and we moved to a different location. We were like, oh, we're supposed to be capturing that. Can anyone run to it? And it's like, no, Kia Center is huge. We're not gonna make it in time.
Yeah.
The good thing is just a small piece to the whole video, so it wasn't like the end of the world. But it could be if it was a wedding or something like that.
Yeah.
But you've done great, and I always love to have you. And I know Quentin, you're doing a lot of stuff with him, and he's also very much into the type of stuff you like, which is live. His studio, have you been there?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I was
about
just
his
there
studio?
yesterday. Yeah, it's coming along great.
Yeah, so I know you guys are gonna partner a lot on it. I know he wanted you to be on the website and everything. So how do you think that is now the moment?
Yeah,
which may propel you eventually to go.
I really hope
full-time?
so. Yeah. I've been debating for a while, trying to figure out, like, you're at a really high scale. You're running a full-on production company. And a lot of people at the last meet are kind of in that same vein of trying to go out and be their own boss. And I don't know if that's for me. I really like partnering with other people. I like not being the guy that the client looks at. So if I can partner with someone like Quentin or you, or there's a guy named Matt Yancey. I don't know if you've met him.
No, not yet.
If I can partner with more people like that and get enough business, I think that's really what I want to go. I love the technical side. I love the stuff I do. So if I can kind of push away from the clients a little bit, that's kind of more.
So you're
my
more
speed.
like the doer, right? You're like you want to be holding the camera, sound
100%.
live, whatever. You don't want to be doing business. But that's the crazy thing. That's what I've been
We
saying.
got to do it
because I remember us having this conversation. I was like, look, the crazy part is, and there's nothing wrong. So you can make a really good career as a DP. And to be real, it's actually very cost effective because as long as you buy one good camera package and maybe a B camera, but typically that's all you need. The investment amount is low comparatively to a production company.
Yeah.
And then you highly market yourself as the cam op DP. You can make good money, right? And then the good thing is you're not as much dealing with direct clients and clients. You're dealing with production companies or I don't know, agencies or things like that, right? So you can you still have to do networking. I don't think there's any way to get away from boots on the ground, handshakes, but it's not as involved.
Right.
And that's one way of making a career. And you can, but again, you hit a ceiling because the ceiling is whatever your day rate is that you set. And obviously you can slowly increase it, but it's that times 365, right? That's the max money you can make. And that's the negative of, I think, the DP cam op life, because you have a maximum ceiling and nobody's working 365 days a week.
Right.
Most people are working, I don't know, a couple hundred, if that. So there is a ceiling, but again, if it's higher than what you're making now and you're happy, then that could be a path, right? And then it's not as time consuming, at least, that you have to be on meetings. Yeah. Long meetings.
I don't enjoy the management side even a little bit. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at the ministry. I'm doing everything except management, and I don't want it. I don't want to be in any more meetings. So, yeah, I mean, if I can do what I'm doing now and make more income, that sounds great to me.
So if hypothetically the ministry was doubled your pay, you wouldn't go freelance?
I don't know.
That'd be a tough one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, like, I'm really logical. I'm ticking boxes, and the ministry does a lot for me. Really, the only one is the money. Yeah. So
tell me a little bit about this gig. So I know you're here because you need something to rent.
Sure.
But what's the gig that you've going on? How do you find these freelance gigs? Because you're still freelancing, by the way. So it's not like you have a full-time gig and that's all you're doing.
No.
Because like I said, you've helped me. Now you have a shoot going on. I don't know. And again, it's not happened. So I don't know how much you could talk about it. But tell me a little bit about the freelance opportunities that you're finding and how are you finding them?
Yeah, I mean, it's all just word of mouth, talking to friends, meeting people and stuff. So I'm about to go do a wedding, and the guy that booked me, I'm second shooting video for him. He is a very creative guy, not quite as technical. So he's bringing me on to be the technical guy. So he's going to follow. His wife is the photographer. They're going to follow the couple. They're going to get all the cinematic stuff, and I'm there to capture the ceremony, make sure we get the speeches, get the audio,
all of that.
More of the technical side,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a perfect second shooter.
It's exactly what I want to be doing. He can worry about the couple. He can make them happy. He can make them look good. I'll make sure it's solid.
Perfect. That sounds like a perfect combo. So, how many weddings have you done? Is this your first
This is
one?
the second I've done video for.
I know you did photos.
Yeah, I did, 10 or 15. Enough to realize that I don't want to do weddings.
Yeah.
But video, this is my second.
Second one. Are you looking anything you learned from the first one where you're like, I'm gonna do this or I'm not gonna do this or anything?
Definitely shot too much the first wedding.
Yeah.
I am back to my photo. I just filled every card. I took everything, and then whatever, I'll figure it out in post. I'll just do all the weeding. So that's what I did with video. And I realized I just shot way, way, way too much. I need to be more intentional. And I feel like that's something the ministry has helped me with. I'm the shooter and I'm the editor, and I've done a lot of different stuff for the ministry. I've done events, I've done stand-ups, I've done podcasts. So I definitely now have a better eye for shooting. So I feel like I can be more efficient.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And that's pretty cool that you're finding opportunities like that. Because plus the thing is you can then try out different shoots. So when you do go full-time freelance or whenever, you'll know, hey, this is, I don't know, your kind of, shoots or whatever. This is what you specialize in. But in general, live is pretty good too, which is what you like.
Yeah.
Have you done anything AV related that's not for the ministry?
No, I mean the first one I did with you, the gig for the car company.
Yeah.
But that's been it, and some stuff with Quentin.
Yeah.
I've done 2 or 3 things with him.
Is it similar or is it different to go for ministry versus other projects?
For live production, it's very similar. Actually, I feel like the more shoot and edit side, the regular video production is way more different. Like I noticed the gig we just did.
Yeah.
A lot of the shots I were getting were very similar, and it's an event. I've done lots of events. I get it, but your whole thing was like doing interviews on the spot, man on the street, and that's like, oh, I don't do that. Everybody I talk to is like, an evangelist. They know how to talk. I don't have to coach them.
Yeah.
I just point a camera and they go, and it's perfect. I never do more than 1 or 2 takes. So with this, it's definitely something I have to learn different.
And it's very important because you have to get the bite out, right? It's very different. I get that, yeah. So sometimes, even with what we're doing, so we like to get, bites to build a story around the event because anyone can make a montage, right?
Yeah.
And plus, my thing is those are useless. Think from a brand's perspective, right? You have a huge event going on. You take some photos of the day and you put some music that, sure, people will look at it, maybe like it. That's it. It didn't really achieve anything. But what we're trying to do is get them something that can tell a message, tell a story, and that the story is very hyper what they want to tell, right? It's not just also what is cool, it's also what's getting the messaging out that we want to be getting out, whether that's pleasing the sponsors, whether that's making the next year's event bigger or whatever that they can use to show people like, hey, next year let's get bigger sponsorship. So whatever, they have an agenda is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So Soundbites help us get that out. But the thing is, a lot of time we're talking man the street to people who are not comfortable in camera, who've never been on camera, or they get awkward or they don't know what to say, or they'll say it, but they'll say it with a bunch of other stuff that we don't need. So you have to kind of coach them, like you said, and you have to get the bite out of them. But then you have to think from the edit perspective.
Yeah.
That's what makes you way more effective, because then you have to go, oh, will this actually work in the edit? Right? Will this fit into a storyline, or will this do something? Because, sure, they say this event is cool. Sure, but what? And how does that fit into the edit, right? We have to be able to go, oh, this is what I did. This is what I enjoyed. Now we can show B-roll of that, right? You have to think from the edit perspective. And when you do put that together where it makes sense, people love our recap videos. I've shown you obviously a few examples because you filmed them. I'm like, this is what we're trying to make. Our clients absolutely go bonkers for these recap videos because, like I said, they're different. Even though they're same, it's just, technically B-roll to montage with some sound bites in it, technically speaking.
Yeah.
But it's the way it's cut together and the way the story flows. Generally, like I said, clients love it. It helps them do way more than just have something to post, right, about the event. So that's what's pretty cool. So it's good to hear your perspective. So next one, when you do, what do you think you're going to do different, or how are you going to change about it, or I don't know, how are you going to approach it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be practice makes perfect, getting more comfortable, coming up with questions and kind of feeling it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that my favorite thing is just listen to them. So what I'll generally say is, "Hey, tell me more," right? And let them talk. And then generally most people will talk, and then they'll give you the golden line, right?
Yeah.
And you just talk to them until they do. And then I'm generally like, "Ooh, I love what you said. Can you say that again?" And that's, I know, is where I'm getting my bite, because it'll be much harder to pull that out from that convoluted sentence, whatever they said.
Yeah.
But if I tell them to repeat it, they even usually get excited. They're like, "Ooh," they want to use whatever I'm saying. So they generally want to do it, is what I'm saying, most people. The hardest thing I find is actually, so the way, for context for people who are not, who haven't been to one of my events, where you're getting these sound bites, but I want them to be in an interview fashion. So the hardest thing actually is, I find that, you have to get the bite where they're looking off camera, but it's just you. It's not like you have a separate interviewer. So you have to somehow either hold the camera away or put your hand out and let them make eye contact where you want them to make eye contact. To me, that's the hardest part. What do you think about that?
I didn't find it too hard. I mean, I was on the gimbal, so it was a little bit easier. I just kind of had it on my hip, and it worked out all right.
Okay, yeah, right? Because that can be confusing for some, where I've been like, yeah, no, make sure they look off angle. And you'd be amazed. Sometimes I get people who are like, they still don't get it. I get sound bites and they're looking at camera. So our option is, either somehow fit it where we don't show the visual, or that whole footage is toast, because it doesn't work, because it looks weird. Most people, when they look at camera and they're not camera trained, they look weird. They're, and you don't want that. The
most annoying part was, I had someone looking at me and I had the camera set and I'd go and they were talking and I would glance over just at the screen and they're like, "Oh, he looked." And then they moved, and it's like,
see, here's what I do. I always tell them, "Hey, even if I look away, make sure you keep maintain eye contact." That's
a good note.
Yeah, no, that happens. That happens even in interviews. So we'll do a lot of, and I got to bring you to one of those. So where I am basically filming, and we're doing like a talking head, right? Like an interview. And same thing, I'll tell them like, "Hey, just maintain eye contact at me." But I'm doing, usually it's just me and maybe an assistant, so it's like a small crew. So I have to sometimes look down at audio or look at the monitor or something, make sure it's recording, nothing's failed or whatever. So, but like you said, they'll get distracted. That's their opportunity to start looking everywhere, or look where I'm looking. So I always am like, "Hey, I may look down for a second." If I do, which I try not to, but you have to. So I'm like, try to maintain eye contact here, because, like you said, they're gonna go everywhere. They're gonna follow you. So it can be a challenge, but that's the good thing, is once you nail these simple skills down, conference industry is huge in Orlando. You can make a lot of money just doing events.
Yeah,
because you could just be out, and even as a cam op, it's pretty decent day rate. But if you're like, if you wanted to talk to clients, you can charge huge money. I know people charge 15, 20, 30 Ks for like a week-long conference, which is huge, because, once you pay your second shooter, you can still be left with a lot of money. So it's a lot more profitable, I'm saying, unlike other videos where you have to do cinematic stuff. It's a lot cheaper to do conferences, and there's so much money in it. But again, then you're dealing with clients, you're finding clients. It can get complicated, obviously, real fast, but there's potential to make money.
For sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about live production. So from a ministry side of it, what are they looking for, and who would be right fit? So let's say somebody is thinking about it, because that's, I think, a very good start, right? They want to get into live, or they just want to get into video, and then maybe I would say mid to low skill, because I do think people should improve their craft first. I think it's a good opportunity to help your local church or whoever. And not only are you gaining skills, you're helping them too, right? So what would be a good way, I'm saying, to approach that type of opportunity?
Sure. I mean, I think for a smaller, medium-sized church, a lot of it is like everybody's done everything at this point. So find a church that you like the style of and look around, like see what cameras are using. You know, Blackmagic cameras are really easy to operate for volunteers. I like the Sony look better, but we use Blackmagic a lot because it's really simple. So if you need, think about volunteer friendly things, you know, the ATEM switchers you can, you know, program, the stream decks, they're phenomenal. I love Companion. I can tinker around all day long and make it so that anybody can walk up and it's easy to read, easy to operate. So think about ways and systems that you can put in place to make it easy for volunteers. Because let's be honest, it's all going to be volunteer operation. But then it's just watching a lot of content and figuring out the look you want and then trial and error trying to get that going. But I wouldn't try to overcomplicate it too fast. You can start with 2 cameras and then grow to a third, and it's easy to continue adding once you master a skill. What's the worst is to jump in and do way too much and you've never mastered anything, and now you're, well, I spent all this money, I have 6 cameras, and it's never a good product. It's way better to start slow, master it, and then evolve over time. Because people are going to see that, oh, it's getting better and better. Nobody's going to hop on a stream and go, well, there's 6 cameras, it's great. Oh, but the shots are shaky and camera ops are bad.
And those cameras are incredible. You can get them sub 1K easily. Used market. And they look really good. Now, again, I do think Sony's a better investment if you're going to do corporate and commercial video. But for live, Blackmagic are great. And my favorite thing is now, again, we use Sony's. But anytime I have used Blackmagic, they'll connect to the ATEM and you can control a lot of the camera functions from the ATEM, which can be really good. I don't have to, like with the Sony's, I'm on a headset telling the operator, hey, can you do this, that, whatever. But with like ATEM and the Blackmagic cameras, we can do most things from the switcher. So I don't even have to reach out to the operator to fix the colors or whatever, right? And I like that's one of my favorite things. And like I said, the cost effectiveness. I think who was it? Quentin again. I think who was telling me he got like 2 Ursa broadcasts for like a couple grand or whatever. And I'm like, that's crazy.
And it's phenomenal image quality.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, the demand isn't really high if you're going to do corporate and commercial videos. If you're doing your own, I guess you can use them because it doesn't matter. And if the client doesn't care, then they're good cameras. It's only when you're going to go join other agencies, I think you're better off with Sony because the demand is high, and you'll just find gigs because you're an FX3, FX6 operator or whatever, or a Venice operator, something like that. But again, for your own stuff or live, I think Blackmagic are really good. The market is flooded with them. Used market is huge. And like I said, there's advantages to just being in their ecosystem anyway. And like you said, they're also very easy to operate. I love on the Pocket, especially the menu system. It's very easy.
It's so simple.
You don't, as long as you understand your exposure triangle, you can pretty much do it. Like you don't have to learn the camera per se. You're not fighting it. So, plus Blackmagic RAW. I think that's really good too. If somebody does want to do RAW. I think the compression and the workflow is really good. And it works very well with the Resolve. So I think the whole thing, right? It's like a whole ecosystem.
It's a really good package.
That works, and a lot of it is cheap. The Resolve is free. So I mean, you can't beat it, right?
I'm sad, up until this point, Blackmagic has been really good about even their cinema line works really, really well for live production. But now with the Pixis, we lost the ATEM control and the Ursa. The 12K full frame, dude, that sensor is so cool, but it doesn't work for live production. That's kind of upsetting.
But 12K, I don't even know when we need it for live.
Well, it's such a cool sensor because it's, I don't remember all the technical terms, but it can do 12K, 8K, and 4K natively out of the sensor. So you don't have to shoot 12K all the time, with a Red or even the Sonys. If you want to crop into a lower resolution, you're losing size. But this can natively do 12K, 8K, or 4K. You can shoot 4K B-RAW right out of it. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Yeah, I think they're using some kind of, I think pixels like bin together and work together, something like that. Again, I don't understand the technology, but yes, the way they were doing it,
6x6 grid instead of a 2x2 grid,
exactly. And then they can just kind of bin them together, and so that it's not cropping in and it's still raw, which is again very incredible technology. But again, on the other side, the demand,
and it's cheap now.
Yeah, it went to what, 5K or something like that. It started at 12K, which was already low. But again, I think the reason that is simple. the truth being the other side of it, I don't think there's any demand for it, and
Yeah.
that's why I think they've dropped the price so much considerably, which is huge, by the way. 5K or whatever you can buy
Yeah.
those for. Wow, I mean, just to think about it. But again, I think that's why the price is so low, because I don't think that many productions are using it. Like
Mhm.
I have in the last 2 years, I can count on single hand any time a camera was used that was not either Sony or Ari, right? And most times it was Red, and that too, like the quality sucked because nowadays I'm talking, they were DSMC2 type of Reds, right? And they were, I was like, they're not keeping up because they were really good when they came out. I own a couple myself, but with the way the technology's moved, I don't think they're keeping up as well. So they're losing ground, is what I'm saying. So it's the Sony or Ari in the high end is just captured the whole market. So if you're trying to play into the corporate commercial market, uh, I don't know how much work you'll find if you show up as like, hey, I'm a DP
For
with
sure.
my 12K Ursa package, right? I don't know how many commercials will be like, yep, that's what we need. You know what I mean? Unless they are trying to hyper do like something for Apple Vision, or you know what I mean,
Yeah.
VR, or something hyper specific. I don't think you're gonna you find, but again, it has use cases. Think about now. I'm saying it myself. Apple Vision
Mhm.
to it'd be really cool to make it with that 12K sensor. But again, I'm saying outside of those hyper specific examples, it's not good to stay in that system.
For sure.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, talk about our YouTuber that we were talking about, Linus Tech Tips. You're
Yeah.
wearing the hat we were talking about before. I think I saw a video years ago when they came out. He bought like 5, 6 of them, and then they didn't work in their own workflow
Got rid of
either.
them so fast.
Exactly, and that was a huge loss for them. So that's what I'm saying. Like they don't fit in the workflow for
Yeah.
most people, even though the camera may be incredible. So like I said, my advice to people would be, again, unless you're doing live, stick to Sony.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's just again a better ROI, and that's only I'm saying, not because Sony's better, is because it'll pay for itself faster.
Yeah. I mean, especially in our world, we all love tech.
Yeah,
So Sony is easy enough to learn. Really, my only recommendation is for Blackmagic for volunteers.
Yeah.
It's so easy to operate.
Mhm.
It is good image quality. It is low budget.
Mhm.
It's a great option for
Yeah.
a church, for
Exactly.
instance. But I mean, I prefer the look of the Sonys. I prefer the workflow. The autofocus is phenomenal. The FX6 with the ND,
Mhm.
life changing.
Exactly. No, but you have a very good point, and I'm even saying, like, if you're doing narrative movies or you're like an indie movie filmmaker and it's your movies, as long as it's your project, you don't have to go fit in somebody else's workflow. Blackmagic are incredible. I'd buy like you said, Pixis or even Ursa or something like that. Way over and way earlier than anything Sony, because then you don't have to worry about what anyone else is using or wants you to use, because with that B-raw, with the Resolve workflow, everything, I think you can get a better image out of it for a lot less money.
Yeah.
That money can be put into other tools, so the investment will be better payoff. But that's the only scenario, or like you said, for churches where they just need bodies, they just
Yeah.
need, or they're doing a podcast or whatever, they just need 5 bodies. It doesn't matter, if it's Sony or not. But yeah, so that's pretty cool, that these options even exist for people. Can you imagine, like, in the past, like buying a sub 1K camera and used that had that phenomenal image quality?
It's
And
crazy.
lenses are cheap too, because I think Micro Four Third kind of died.
Yeah.
I loved it, by the way. I use GH4s, I'm saying,
I
but it
started on
came
the
out like,
Panasonic G7.
yeah, so that was what, 2014, 15, whenever GH4 came out. That was incredible camera for the time, and I bought one immediately, right? And I loved it. But now I feel like, even though I know they released GH7 or whatever, I think Micro Four Third's kind of dying or
Yeah.
dead. So, but the advantage is market is flooded with lenses. If you want to buy native lenses, I think you can find really good deals on them. Olympus, I think, died too. So, the whole, Micro Four Third.
And
But-
it's easy to adapt, so you can always grow into a system.
Exactly. You can start with EF lenses, which are really cheap, and Canon made amazing EF lenses. So the point is, cost wise, it's just incredible. You can adapt, or you can just buy native micro four third lenses for really cheap on the used market.
Yeah.
And go start making amazing images, which is what it's about. Um, or just doing live, and there's so much money in it. By the way, I have been doing live since 2020, and I would say about 30-40% of my work is still live, and we do a ton of it. And funny enough, I do want to talk the other side of it. I don't know if you've done that yet. Have you done any remote producer thing? We do that a lot now. So that is a huge thing. So another place where ATEMs, now you can do this without an ATEM. I still prefer ATEMs. So there's a huge demand now where people don't even fly in. So they'll be like, hey, we have clients that we need to capture an interview with, or we need to do a three-person round table with 4 cameras or 3 cameras or something like that. That's a very common request, and you can find these gigs all over the country, and the client may not even be in the same state, right? So all they want is you to send them a remote feed. So technically not live, but you kind of run it like live, and it's such an easy setup to have something like. So I think everyone should own an ATEM, even if you're not doing live.
They're so
I
useful.
love this ATEM Extreme because all I have to do is plug the cameras in, and even my cameras obviously SDI version may be better. But since we are using FX6s and FX3s, this works better because all our cameras have HDMIs, even the FX6s. So we could plug them all in, do a quick, a little multi-view of 3 camera, 4 camera, in the software, and bam, we can send it out to a remote producer, and they love it because if you do the old method of using cam links or OBS or whatever, I mean, you could do it, but then you have dongles everywhere, and then also more points of failure. Plus, a lot of times you can just send one because most people only have one in their arsenal, and then the client's only seeing the wide cam; they're not seeing the tight cams. You know what I mean? The overall experience you can provide them is so much better.
Yeah,
and they love it because they're not there. So any information you give them is valuable. So them being able to see all the angles, them being able to see the colors or the exposure, whatever, being able to hear is incredible, and it's so easy to do with these ATEMs. 5 minutes to set up at most.
It's eliminated a whole workbox worth of stuff in one device.
Exactly, and it's so easy, and also that they can convert. I've only had once an issue where we threw a signal into it, and the mini extreme, I still couldn't read it. But generally they have converters in them too that or rather I say converter. They're scalers. So as in if you throw a wrong frame rate into it, like you throw a 60 with a 30 and a 25, it can easily manage that. In the past, that was a pain. So I started with Television Studio HD. They couldn't do that. So you had to make sure with a decimator or something you were sending it the exact frame rate.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that now. I mean, you get it relatively right, throw your HDMIs in, and it just kind of works.
Yeah.
And as DP, I highly recommend it, is what I'm saying. If you cannot offer remote production capabilities, which is a lot of productions nowadays, it makes you easily be able to stand out. And like I said, it's nothing extra for me. We were going to do the shoot anyway. If I just can throw a couple of HDMIs in and send the client a feed, I don't know why that's a big deal to me, right?
Yeah.
But you would be amazed how many people are not doing that yet. So I highly recommend people, who are listening, just go buy yourself an ATEM. I mean, and it doesn't have to be the extreme. You could just buy the mini pros or whatever, right? Just 4 channels. I don't think you're rarely doing multicam more than 4. I'm talking where you'd have remote producer stuff. Obviously, for churches, you probably need.
I mean,
more
for versatility's sake, I would almost even recommend the extreme. Like we were talking about, dual USB-Cs, so you can send to the laptop with webcam and USB record at the same time, and
very smart. Yes, exactly. And then they make the
2
SDI
HDMIs,
version too,
so you can multi-view and program.
Exactly. And if you're only using SDI cameras, I would even recommend that because I think it's even more outputs.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't have the SDI is because, like I was saying, we use FX3s and FX6s.
Right.
So it helps. I wish they would make a hybrid version. That'd be really cool.
That'd be so useful.
Yeah, we had half HDMI, kind of like Television Studio HD again. I love that because it was 4 SDI and 4 HDMI. That to me would be instant buy because then we can do SDI directly from FX6s instead of having to use HDMI because HDMI is not a reliable connector.
Yeah.
But anyway, but there's these things like, see, so it's live. I don't think it's just for people doing live. There's a lot more benefits in learning something like ATEM, because I think even DPs can really get their money's worth by being able to do this remote producer thing.
Mm. So in that scenario, are you the one leading the interview, or is it the remote producer?
It depends. So yeah, if it's an interview, I've had that where the remote producer is leading it. But sometimes, I'm saying like you're doing like a round table where nobody's leading anything, because
Gotcha.
it's probably moderator is part of it, or some kind of conference or something. The main thing is that they get a feed. It's kind of like sending, like I said, live, but you're sending the multi-view out.
Yeah.
Pretty much, to instead of like the program, you send the multi-view out, and generally, like I said, I'll do the 4x the quad view, basically multi-view, because at most, like I said, typically 3 to 4 cameras. And basically, what you're doing is giving them the opportunity to observe what's happening while they're not here,
Gotcha.
right? And you send HDMI audio out to one of the feeds, and that's their audio feed, so they also hear live audio, so they can kind of comment on that. It just makes it easier. Think of this way, right? Like I've done that too, where I've been the remote producer. So what I'll give you an example. Some client reaches out and they say, okay, we need to do a video. We'll do interview with one executive in Chicago, one in San Francisco, one in Orlando, right? And then it's like, sure. And what's the budget? So if it's like a good budget, let's say they said 20 grand. I was like, okay, perfect. I'll fly to all 3 cities. Well, I'm in local in Orlando. The other 2 I can fly. We can make it perfect. I'll bring all the gear. Now they go, out of the budget is like 8 grand. Now you don't have the budget to fly with gear and everything. So then you offer, okay, awesome. We'll do it with a remote team. So you hire somebody local to go run that interview, but I want to make sure the framing, everything is perfect. So I will ask that, hey, can you send me the feed through Zoom or whatever? And that way I can make sure it matches. So I'm saying I can even be the remote producer. And now I can make sure the shot I did in Orlando matches the other two, right? It's as simple as that. And then, like I said, if I wanted to, I can even conduct the with the clients.
Yeah.
And then the other side is when I'm the production company that some other production company is hiring. Same thing. I'm sending them the remote feed because they can just watch it. A lot of times it's just that, if you're doing the correct stuff. But then a lot of times they can have just some input like, hey, I don't like that plant in the back, or I don't like this or whatever. And then it's very easy for us to fix now than later. And that's what I'm saying.
100%.
I've had other people that do remote producer stuff. They'll only send the main cam out, like the wide cam or whatever. And I highly recommend doing this way because I love it, because they can see the whole production and they can comment on the tight cameras and stuff. You don't want anything in the back end to go, oh, we don't like this or whatever, right? It's so much easier to fix in the moment. So it has multiple advantages. They just want it nowadays, like I said, especially if they're not flying it, which is a common thing now. Budgets are getting lower and lower, right? You're expected to do more. And 2, it's just, like I say, eliminates that gap of they don't know what you're doing type of thing. They see exactly what the final frame looks like. And like I said, on your side, if you actually, it sounds like a lot, it's not. Because
Really
once you
simple.
set it up, it's set up. Like you're not messing with the ATEM. It's not like you're live switching or anything. You're just sending them a multi-view out. And if you're smart, you can even set it up from your home before you leave. So it's all the settings are set. You just plug in, you send, and it's pretty good. And one of my favorite things, again, we're gonna now make this all about ATEM. So one of the things on the extreme is on this side, you can actually select what you're sending on the output 1, and which is what we're doing here. And then my favorite thing with that is, so you can typically I'll leave it on multi-view, right, like this. So they'll get the multi-view. But then if they're like, oh, I want to see one camera in detail, I can actually go to multiple different cameras. So I can actually zoom without like doing too much effort. I can show them a zoomed in view or the proper view frame of each camera individually, and then go back to multi-view.
Right.
So they can look in detail if they wanted to. And it's so easy to do. Like I said, it's just pressing a button. Like once you play with this, it's actually very easy. It looks daunting, but it's not. And then and like I said, it's very easy. It works in the workflow perfectly. It's better, I think, product than the other options, which would be, like I said, a cam link, maybe OBS, the other way of doing it.
Yeah.
I think this is a much easier solution, and it has internal live streaming capabilities too. So if they wanted it, usually we'll send it to you through Zoom, but I'm saying if they wanted it sent on Vimeo or YouTube or whatever, technically we can directly through the device plug an Ethernet and send them the feed that way
Yeah.
too, without even needing a computer. So
I've had such bad luck with that.
really, no,
Yeah. I know so many people that like that's their
Yeah.
thing. They stream out the Ethernet every time. It's failed on me like
really.
half the time I've tried.
I don't want to jinx it. That's how this podcast goes out, so it hasn't failed yet. But yes, I mean, yeah, that would be. It's worked for me. Like I said, I've done it multiple times. Obviously, I don't typically do it for client. We use like a bonding, a thing. So I use Teradek stuff, but video go. What's Live View makes good stuff too. So there's a lot of. Yeah, I highly recommend using an encoder if it's a paid project. But I'm saying if it's like something like that, like where it's not mission critical, it just works directly without any input, any extra products. I'm just saying I think it's a good, what is it? Like I think $1,000, right? Something like that. It's and you could probably find it cheaper used. I think it's a really good investment. Even I'm saying as a DP, you don't even have to do live production, just as your remote producer unit. And like I said, it'll pay for itself. I mean, half my shoots that I'm doing with other companies are where they're not flying in anymore. It's like gotten like that. So I can't imagine not getting the money back, the return.
It's such a useful device.
Yeah. Plus, then you can, if you really wanted to, it may not be for everyone, but if you're like you, where you like it and you love the technical part of it, you can now go into the live world and make more money just doing the live switching and all that other stuff. So you can actually do more with it than just the remote producer.
We use them a lot at the ministry, even when we're not live streaming. So like we'll set it up in the studio when we don't want to use, or even up in the podcast room, we'll do a 2 or 3 camera podcast and we'll do a live switch just to speed up our edit. What I'll do is I'll record the program in here and then record ISOs and cameras and then just rebuild it in Premiere. But now I have a basic cut already and that just speeds up a whole lot in the editing process.
Yeah, and that's the goal with season 2 for our podcast. I want to have a remote producer and live editing, is because again, we're a video production company. This isn't making any revenue. We don't have time to go edit, and that's why I didn't do multicam with this season. But ideally, we want to, right? Because it just makes it more dynamic. And I was like, when we're gonna do that, we're not gonna edit in post. We're just gonna go live, and I'm gonna have a producer just live switch, and then we're done.
Yeah.
And it'll be so easy. And like I said, the device can record. So we'll have the recording already ready to go. We don't have to do anything. And it's already switched. It's edited. There's a cut. And now, yes, will it be perfect? Maybe not.
It's live
mistakes can happen. That's live.
Yeah.
But having seen other live productions, I think it'll be pretty good. And by the way, people, like a lot of people go like, hey, how do I make no mistakes? I think there will be mistake. It's live production. But once you see big budget live productions, how many mistakes they have? Like if you pull up Grammys or Oscars, and these are huge productions, right?
Yeah.
How many mistakes do they have? Right? And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you've ever looked at it that way, but like if I'm watching any, I can just catch up. Like, oh, they messed up there.
I can't watch anything without noticing.
It's like, I know they didn't mean to switch that or whatever. And it happens. And because, it's live production. So what I'm saying is people also need to be not that hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Like if major productions with multi-million-dollar budgets can mess up, you can mess up a little bit. Just don't have major messes.
Yeah.
But a tiny switch here and there is not the end of the world. It happens.
Yeah. It's how quick you are at fixing the mistake.
Exactly, and learning from
mistakes.
it. So talking about that, let's go, because I'd completely forgotten that you helped me with that live show. How was that? If you remember, we did like a car launch together.
Yeah.
Where we live streamed it, which was incredible to even know that we have a car manufacturer in Orlando.
It was a pretty cool company.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so how was that experience? If you're going to talk about it, how was it different than the ministry's live streams? Obviously, we were launching a car. I think we had to light it and all that.
Yeah.
So, and we also had to do it live too. So it's crazy. It wasn't just on the internet. Their own team was watching it too. So we had to put TVs there so they could watch it and listen to it. We put speakers. Point is, it was like an event production there, but then also it went online.
Yeah.
So, and I brought you in as like the technical director. I think it's the role I called it. Essentially just helped me put it together, right? I think it was a team of 4 or 5 of us or something like that. So I don't know if you remember from it. It's been a while, but how was that experience, and how would you describe it different than the live stuff you had done for the ministry?
Sure, yeah. For the ministry, it's never that quick a turnaround. For us, it's a much longer stream. Say a whole conference or a whole service or something. and generally we'll be in the day before or 2 days before. So we have a lot of time to prep, a lot of time to get it dialed in. There's always going to be, the event staff that it's doing lighting, projection, whatever. We'll hire in something like that. So for me, it's a lot more focused and I have a lot more time. It was really interesting. We only had 3 hours, if that, to set up, and we were doing all the lighting. We were doing everything. So it was really fun actually to have to be that quick and think on our feet and problem solve quick, and it was fun.
Yeah, and we had to bring everything, so we had to load in, set it up, and go live in like 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah,
and that was the whole setup time, and I think we did great because we also had to problem solve, like you said, because they're like, oh, we want these TVs here. Oh, so we got to.
They wanted the wireless camera, and we didn't have a wireless.
So they didn't tell us about. So they wanted, literally the requirements was, hey, we're gonna have a camera on tripod. And then when we showed up, they're like, no, we got to show the car, which makes sense. But then why did they book one camera? So I'm like, oh, well, we're gonna go handheld, right? That's you gotta do what you gotta do, and it would have been so simple because the cost wouldn't have been any different. I would have brought a second camera anyway. So or bought the Teradex anyway.
Yeah.
I'm saying. So it wasn't the cost factor. It was more like them not being, I guess, prepared or whatever. And it's fine. That was their first live stream. But what's crazy is that was like the purpose behind the van setup now. Because I never want that to ever happen again. Now if somebody goes, hey, can we make it wireless? I can be like, sure, give me a few minutes. Let me go to the van. We could pull it out. Right? We couldn't do that then. It was like, no, we brought what we needed to bring because we planned it all out. We can't just all of a sudden, go wireless because that's not the plan or anything like that. So, but clients will do that to you. Welcome to video production. They will just go, oh, by the way, can we show the interior of the car? Or we can do this. And they're like, are we going to do that from a tripod? Like, no, we can't.
It's so interesting hearing the client perspective.
Yeah.
They don't know our world. They don't. They just know what they want. And most of the time they don't know what they want until they've seen it and know that, oh, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to translate through whatever they say, figuring out, okay, actually I need wireless.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, the good thing is we were able to solve their problem. We just went handheld, and I think we did great. I think the footage came out great. The live stream was great. And like I said, in the future, my goal personal was I don't want to have that issue. And that's not just one example. That happens every shoot. So it's like there's something they'll throw at you, right? So that's what the idea behind the van was. I'm like, if I have 99% of everything, right? I still obviously don't carry all my live streaming kit in there. So they can't just go live. They can't tell me, oh, we'll go live. So it doesn't solve all problems, but 99% of the problems, if they're like, oh, can we throw a frame here? Or can we make, I don't know, like you said, can we go wireless or can do something like that? Or can we have a couple extra mics or things like that where I can just quickly be like, okay, sure. Obviously, it won't be instantaneous. We still have to go to the van, but it's a lot simpler to go to the van that's probably parked outside their building than to be like, oh, we'll go to our studio. And a lot of times it's not even a possibility to come back to the studio to grab something. So that is at least the idea behind it. And, I don't want that to ever happen again in the future. But that was neat. I'm so glad you were there. You were able to see the problems that we had and how we were able to solve them. But very different than, like I said, ministry,
That's
right?
the stuff I love, though. I love, like I said, building the system, working the problems out.
And I still remember I was like, oh, so you're here as the technical director. Now can you become the cable wrangler? Because that's what the job changed to, right? Because that's what we got to do. Because now we're like hardwired, but we're technically mobile, which is very interesting. I don't typically do that. But I know in live that is a thing that is done as well. But that was interesting for me. Because normally I would, like I said, have a Teradek or something like that just to resolve that situation. But like I said, looking back at that stream, it came out incredible. I had such a good time, and I'm so glad you were able to be part of it. And talk about this once we're done. I gotta invite you to another shoot. I would love to have you.
Sure.
Like I said, it's so fun to do these shoots, and to have you on them. And then that's another thing I want to talk about, like work-life balance. So luckily, like I said, you have a full-time job.
Yeah.
But they are very friendly with you doing these freelance work.
Yeah.
So how incredible is it to have that kind of freedom at your job where you can pick up gigs?
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean, that's like I was talking about earlier, just ticking the boxes. The ministry has been phenomenal, being crazy flexible. I'm on salary, I don't have to clock in and out. generally we get to work from home on Fridays, so that is kind of a floater day for me. Generally, it's like editing or whatever last minute task is before Sunday. And yeah, it's great.
And that's incredible. I think if people can find it, like some very much like going pro, you know, like full time in it. But I'm all for if you can find a workplace that is willing to, you know, pay you decent, that gives you the freedom, and it's letting you do what you love. And at the end of the day, if you don't want that hassle of where's my client coming from tomorrow, because that is the unknown in the freelance world. I think it's a really great choice to go get a job. Like I say, it wouldn't be for me,
Sure.
but that doesn't mean it's not for everyone. And even if you want to be a freelancer, I think it's a good place to go get your skills right. I don't know where else can you go do live streams and learn. Because if you're coming to my, on my regular shoots, I'm willing to try people. But live streams, I don't want to typically risk people who don't have experience with live because
Yeah.
we don't have the opportunity to learn. We gotta do it right. Like
It's all
you
about
said.
minimizing mistakes, like
Exactly,
we were talking about.
yeah. So it's like very rare opportunities where you can go learn live in a ministry or a church or something like that. And it doesn't even have to be that. If you're I don't know, a synagogue or wherever, there's
Yeah.
any kind of religious place, I think they need live production. So if you follow a certain religion, I think that's the best place for you to go. You're not only volunteering. I think it's great, but then also you can actually gain that experience, and they're more forgiving because they understand you're a volunteer.
The bar is so low.
Yeah.
Like anything you do, if you're really trying, it's going to be better than everything out there. So-
Exactly, and I think that is so great to what you just said, because I think that is the best opportunity to learn live.
Yeah.
And there's so much money in live. People take this opportunity, go volunteer, and practice and learn from people like you. Because I'm sure now that you're experienced, if anyone else joins the ministry, you can teach them the ropes and things like that.
Yeah.
And then they can become an expert. And then eventually, if let's say they do go freelance, they can now run a live production company and make a killer money. And that would be one of the hardest things otherwise to learn if it wasn't for opportunities like what you have at CFAN.
And that's how I got started, as a cam op at my church.
Look at that. So yeah, I think that's a very good way to start. And then once you have your skills and your confidence, or even if you want it, because some people may never want it. If you're just happy and it's paying your bills, then I guess that is it. But if you want it, I think it can be a good stepping stone to that. Finally, the life where you quit and you go, oh, I gotta go full time now, right? And I'm ready to go and hunt clients.
And I'm only right on that line.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to build something like you got.
Yeah. I mean, but you never know. I mean, with Quentin, I think you have good opportunity. I mean, with me, like I said, I love having you. I love having you as a can op that we can, bring on. And like I said, you do great work. I've never had issue at all. Your work is amazing.
Appreciate it.
And even Julie, my editor, said really good things about you. She was like, "Oh yeah, he got really good shots. So make sure you bring him to this next event." And that's why I completely forgot about it. Now we're sitting. I was like, "Oh crap, I have another event shoot. I would love for you to come if the schedule works out."
Sure.
And then so you do good work. So I don't think you should have an issue. But I also think, like I said, Quentin's a great friend.
Yeah.
And I think he's building something really cool. And if it works out, there's obviously, again, a risk with everything you do. But with this new studio concept that he has, I think there's a good opportunity there. And so and I know he wants you to be a part of that. So if you guys can build something there and that can be your opportunity.
I feel like there's definitely enough work out there for me to help others build their stuff, and I can make a decent living, and I can do what I love, and I don't need to worry about the other stuff.
Exactly. So is there a certain number, let's go real, like that you're trying to hit, like where you're like, oh, if I could get paid this much, I'll go happily help build somebody else's, this, and I'm happy. What is that number?
I don't really know a specific number yet. I mean, I want to be comfortable, Hopefully at some point I can buy a house, you know. Hopefully some point we can afford kids. But
is it like 6 figures, higher, lower? Is there, or no, you don't have a number yet, right?
Yeah,
now?
I don't think I have a number. I mean, love 6 figures. That'd be awesome. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to build something big. I'm just trying to provide for me and my family. So,
so you just want something where you're going to be able to pay your bills, like you said, buy a house, the basic things that everyone wants. Nothing crazy. I think you're basically like, that's what I want to do. I want to do video. I want to make this much money, and I want to be.
I want to make enough to afford the life I want to live, but also have a good work-life
Yeah.
balance. You know, I'm not trying to work every single weekend and
Yeah.
kill myself and then not get to enjoy all the money I made, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that was like one of my biggest things. Before I went full time, I was freelancing, so I was like you, I had a full time job. So not only am I working, and I was salaried too, so I was working way more than you need to be. So anyway, and then I also on the weekends or whatever, right, doing gigs. So it's like, when am I gonna see my kids?
Mhm.
And I had one kid at the time, and I was like, I'm not seeing my kid, and it's like she's gonna grow up and not know, her own dad, and I was like, that's not the life I want. Plus,
Yeah.
you can't take a vacation. I still remember I wanted to go on vacation, and it's like, oh, you cannot go for this long. You can only go this dates, and I'm like, oh, so you're deciding when I go take my time off, not me. It's not like, oh, this is the best days to travel. No, no, no. This is the days we'll let you go. And
Yeah.
that was where my thoughts started churning. I was like, I don't know, this is right for me. And then this was incredible. Like earlier last year, and to be real, we did less vacations when I became freelance. There's the
Mhm.
negative side of it, because then you go, oh, I'm working all the time.
Then you're the one telling yourself, oh, I can't do those dates.
Vacations. But last year it was so great. It was like, finally, I was like, hey, we haven't taken. Obviously, being in Orlando, we go to theme parks all the time. So technically,
Yeah.
we take vacations, but it's not. It doesn't count as vacation, because you're at your home, just going to a theme park. Anyway, I was like, oh, let's go on a cruise, and it was just incredible to go. Oh, this is a week. I'm just going. I'm not taking any projects this week. So it's like, I didn't have to like go ask permission from anyone, right? I just had to block my own calendar. Like, okay, now I ended up technically taking calls and emails, but I didn't have to. You know what I
Sure.
mean? But what's crazy is, it felt great, that freedom, where I was just like, okay, this is the week. Like, book a cruise. Like, I didn't have to like go, oh, well, it can only be this day to this day to this day.
Yeah.
It was just like, nope, this is our time. I'm blocking it off, and I'm not taking any projects. That doesn't matter what it is. And funny enough, I was like, if I even get a project, I'll just pass it to someone else, right?
Yeah.
I can always sub it out. So it's not like I can technically still not be working while I'm on a cruise. But that was incredible to be able to do that. And that is the freedom that I think has its pros when you
Mhm.
go freelance. But I do see your perspective too. If obviously you're happy to go freelance if the right opportunity came, but at the same time, if something with Quentin or somebody else, whoever, gave you a good paycheck and let you still do what you want to do, then you're happy to do that. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
And it really just depends on the gig, you know. I'm really lucky with the ministry I'm at now. I haven't had that
Mhm.
problem with time off, you know. They're really flexible. Yeah, I
Mhm.
got to give them a little notice and work around some key dates, but it's worked out, you know.
That's incredible. So tell me this now. Let's say you do go full time. Let's say you go free, or you are full time, but I mean, like, you go on your own.
Sure.
What type of gigs would you like to find? What would be like an ideal gig and rate that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really nailed down a niche yet.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things I love. I do tend more towards live production and the technical
Yeah.
side. That's really what I love, back to my IT degree. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know if I'm that into, you know, spec shoots and add like more creative stuff.
Mhm.
It's just it's really interesting. I love being around it, but it's not my passion. I do really prefer the technical stuff where I can really use my brain and problem solve.
Mhm.
So I'd probably lean towards that, but I'm open still to figure out a
Mhm.
niche that fits me well.
So you're most likely leaning towards gigs that are going to be, or will lean towards gigs that are going to be like, use that technical expertise from you, whether that's, I don't know, camera or
It's really what I've
live or
built up the
whatever. Yeah.
most. Yeah.
And I think you're also really good with post, right? Because you
Yeah.
edit and as well. Do you do After Effects and stuff like that, or?
I know enough to do what I've needed to do. I'm not an expert.
Because
at
in
After
live you
Effects.
gotta do lower thirds and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So is there a particular software you guys use in the ministry, or
We use the full Adobe suite,
The Adobe,
Photoshop,
okay,
After
yeah.
Effects. Yeah.
all that? So how are you bringing it on? Are you using the media bank on the
Yeah.
ATEM? Okay, so
Keyers.
the
yeah.
keyers. Okay, so because I know there's a bunch of softwares like we use. I think it's called Titler Live, something like that. And I
Sure.
should know the name, but anyway, I think I showed you that at that event. We never ended up doing it.
Hmm.
But there's softwares too, so lower thirds or whatever.
I like doing everything in hardware as much as possible. I mean, we do use ProPresenter. That's a really good
Yeah.
PowerPoint software, so it can do a lot of animation and stuff. But I like doing it in hardware where things can't crash. We've had so many times right now in the studio. We're running an M1 base model Mac Mini, and it has 2 quad decklink cards and 2 outputs. It has 11 displays on it. We are cranking that thing. And it's awesome, and it works. We can do Zoom ISO and ProPresenter, key fill, and stage display, and it's great. But I don't love to trust it.
Yeah.
So as much as I can do in hardware, we just set up a hyperdeck so we can do video playback through the system. We use the keyers, anything I can get in hardware, I try to go that way.
No, that's my favorite thing. Like, funny enough, that's how I use it. So hyperdecks is like one of my favorite things. So my live streaming kit, we have 2 hyperdecks. I've consolidated a lot. I had it's so funny. Started with like looking at Quentin's racks and stuff. I started like big rack, and now slowly got condensed because I realized the type of gigs we're doing, we want to be just small and efficient.
Yeah.
Instead of if they want that huge of a setup, they'll call somebody like a Quentin anyway.
For sure.
What they're calling me for is like they want the live stream to look better, right? With those FX6 looks and that cinema type of quality, which is not typical with broadcast cameras, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's like my favorite thing. So I have a hyperdeck that we use for like playback, and then a hyperdeck for recording, and it's like so cool to be able to go in the rack where I just plug one output and it just automatically routes and gives me more outputs, but it also goes to the hyperdeck. And then my favorite thing is you switch to it, it just auto plays. So you don't have to like cue it. It's the perfect timing. There's nothing you have to do, and it just works. Again, coming back to like Blackmagic, it just kind of works.
Yeah.
And it's so good to be able to, like do playbacks and things like that. Now I want to go more into what do you think is the future of video like for churches and things like that? So obviously 2020 we learned that everyone has to do it, and now that everyone is doing it, and I think a lot of churches still do it on Zoom and things like that, even though we no longer have to stay at home. What do you think the future is going to go as far as technology and video and media goes?
And I just think it's just going to keep getting simpler and simpler. There's such a commodification of video. It's on one hand, it's hard to stand out, but on the other hand, it's really easy to stand out because anybody can pull out a phone and record, but not everybody is going to do it with the LUTs and with the color and with the cinematic movements. And so I think it's going to be interesting seeing how people choose to stand out in that way. I also have a little bit of a hot take. I don't think every church needs a live stream. I feel like a lot of people jump into a live stream because they feel like they need to reach people, but most churches don't get the views to support that. They would be much better off putting that money into another part of the ministry.
Or just doing a better live production, right? Just in the church itself, I think.
Yeah, in-house. Yeah,
in-house. Because I think if you do it well, they can, you can make a show. And I think
most churches have such a limited budget.
Yeah.
Unless you're really going to put the effort and actually make it your, evangelistic ministry, you're better off saving the money. I really feel.
Okay. That's pretty cool or interesting to hear from a video guy saying, hey, you don't need a video. But I get it. I mean, like I said, I lived in Alabama for a few years, and I was just surprised how many churches there are. I was like, are there even enough people to support that many churches? Because, because that's what churches are fighting for, right? They want viewership. They want more people to join the church and come listen to the message or whatever. And, but if there's one like every around the corner, if you're small enough that there's no way everyone can grow that large. Is what I'm saying, like what CFAN is, whatever. Yeah, so at that point, I think, like you said, if you have a limited budget, if you have a small membership, then you're probably better off using that money somewhere else where you can make a bigger impact.
And if you do want to live stream, actually put the effort in to make it high enough quality that people are gonna be there,
Which is exactly where we were talking about earlier. I think this is the perfect opportunity where somebody who wants to learn live needs to step up. Yeah. Like they need to go to the church that they go to, especially if it's a smaller one. You need to be the one saying, "Hey, let's go live stream. Let me make it better," or whatever. because then that's where you're learning, so you get something out of it, but then you can benefit the church by putting on a real production or doing a better production, and maybe getting some benefit out of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it goes then that way. It'll be a both, like a good relationship both ways.
Yeah.
The church is benefiting from it, and you're benefiting from it by learning and growing your skills and things like that. But yeah, but do you think AI will replace you? Because to be real, most churches have a standard format, right? So once you feed that into an AI system, normally I'm very bullish on like AI is not going to replace filmmakers because we have this creative vision, we're doing something unique. But church is one place where I see, like you said, it's going to get highly commoditized. I don't see why we couldn't program an AI to switch, because you're like, hey, this is a program, right? You learn, it's a large LLM, right? So you can feed it enough live streams,
Yeah.
and I think technically nothing stops Blackmagic from putting out a product that has that built in, and then it can switch again, standardized. I'm not saying something unique. If you're doing something custom or unique, obviously I don't think AI will right now is there, but I don't also foresee right now why an AI couldn't switch a church live stream, because
I
it's
mean,
so
yeah, I mean, maybe it'll get there at some point, but I feel like there's enough stuff out there that shows how bad it is. Like,
yeah.
I get recommended like at least twice a week Opus clip
Mhm.
to like pull podcast clips, or like we do sermon clips. So we'll take the sermon, cut it up into
Yeah.
the bites of the message and whatever. And we've tried it, and we try it, and we try it, and it just spits out garbage because it has no context for what we're
Mhm.
talking about. It'll do, the spot that he was the loudest, or it'll trim just 1 minute, but then it missed the meat of the point, and it's going to be a long time before it can really understand the
Mhm.
content. And I mean, that's the biggest point. We're not just trying to pump out garbage. That's the whole reason I don't want people to live stream. Like,
Yeah.
you need to make it intentional. You need to make the content worth it.
Mhm.
And I think AI is a long way off from that.
Okay. So you think for pulling the actual good stuff out, it's not there yet? But
Maybe it could mix a live stream,
Yeah.
or something, save that operator. Maybe possible. But there's a lot of what I do that it's going to be a long time before AI replaces it.
Okay. That's good to hear, because a lot of people in our industry fear AI, and I feel like AI is a good tool that can be very very beneficial. But I don't know if you need to fear it or anything.
I feel like so many people don't see the value of quality content. They see just people posting 5 times a day on TikTok, and they grow. They think they can do the same for a church or a ministry or whatever. Nobody wants to watch garbage content.
Mhm.
Yeah, you might get some views, but nobody's going to latch on to that.
Mhm.
And why bring your reputation as a church down from that? You want to be known as the church with the theology, with the content, with the
Mhm.
reason why people want to show up. Don't put out garbage. Put the effort behind it. Do
Mhm.
it right. And AI is not going to do that for a while.
I get it. So what would you tell somebody how to approach their church? I guess with this idea, what is there a right way to say it? Like that. Hey, let's pull out better content. If you have a church you're going to and you think they're putting out garbage content, I'm talking in terms of quality and content. How would you suggest somebody here approach them? And then let's say they want to learn, they want to get better, but at the same time they want to help them not put garbage out.
Yeah.
What'd be the good way, I'm saying, to approach?
I feel like a lot of churches view social media and their media presence in general just kind of as a have to. Oh, we'll just do some marketing push. We'll do some Facebook ads. We'll do some whatever. But I really view what I do for churches as another form of evangelism, as spreading the gospel. And so if you can get a pastor to look at it that way, it's like, oh, okay, that's my job. I'm supposed to spread the gospel. This is another path for it. I'm as important as your worship leader, as someone that goes out on the street. Like, video is important to spread your message.
Mhm.
Put some effort behind it, because otherwise you're just like those people on the street that says Jesus loves you. It's like, okay, nobody's like following up with them. You're not really doing much.
Mhm.
Put some effort behind it.
Okay, and that way you can get the word out
Yeah.
to more people. Yeah, no, I completely get it. And at the technical side and the creative side of it is, like I said, you want to stand out. You don't want to be putting out the same thing that 500 of the churches are putting out.
Yeah.
You want to stand out. You want your message to penetrate past the noise, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think, like I said, I would just suggest people, especially this is, I think, for more people who are like starting out, or who want to just learn live or just production in general. I think it's a good, like you said, low bar to entry.
It doesn't take a lot to be better than everybody else.
Exactly.
It just needs a little bit of intention.
And then the other the side of it is, I think, once you do master that, not only will you help the church, obviously, but the other side is, I think you'll come back ready to take on like bigger projects where with corporations or wherever, where you can actually charge a good penny for being able to provide. Because I mean, talking about, you say in churches the production quality is low. I'm not gonna name them, but you guys can pull up. AV is basically monopoly by like 2 or 3 companies all over the country. They have partnerships. No matter which hotel or resort you're going to, it's gonna be one out of the 3. Usually, I'm saying the in-house option. I'm saying, and they have kind of cornered the market because they're the in-house options. Typically, most companies just go with the in-house options, and the quality is garbage. It is so much garbage. And that's what I'm saying. Like, with not that much effort, we show up, and I'm saying a typical corporate gig with like 4 bags, 4 Pelicans maybe, and we can put up a better show than that AV company with all these racks and racks of equipment that show up. And again, I think it's because they don't care. It's simple. It's not that they couldn't. It's
they
just
have
that
to check a box.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, again, highly commoditized. At that point, they're just like, we are the default anyway.
Yeah.
They don't have to like fight for the business, right? And I think that's why they're putting out garbage, because it's so funny. Every live stream I've done for my clients, they're like, this is the best. We do these events all the time. This is the best, or this is incredible. This is so dynamic, or whatever, right? The compliment that we get. And I'm like, I don't understand like how the AV companies are charging double, triple of what we were charging, right? And just putting out, like I said, pure garbage.
And that's the crazy part. Like churches, I get annoyed when they don't want to spend any money and it's a bad product. But these people are paying big money and it's still a bad product.
Yeah, it's still a bad product. And usually, like I said, it's just like maybe a wide and a tight, and that's all they're switching to. So many times I've been to AV companies where they're trying to play back a video and the video just doesn't play. It's been like, what? Like, I don't get it. Like nowadays, like I said, if you're using a Mac Mini or whatever, I don't know, or HyperDeck. Now I get HyperDecks are a little sensitive. I think you have to be like really ProRes.
Pick the format.
Or whatever. But I'm saying a computer, if you're using for your playback, an M1 most times can play literally nowadays any format. It's not that complex. So I don't understand where I've been, like where I'm talking AV companies getting like $100,000 for the conference, and we're sitting there 5 minutes awkwardly because they can't play this video that they're supposed to play, and it's like, what is happening? I can right now show up with my laptop and I don't play it. And I don't know what tool they were using, obviously, because I wasn't the one doing that AV. But the point I'm trying to make, the what's actually out there, it's not that hard to be better than that.
Yeah.
And like I said, if these AV companies can ask for 100K, 50K from these corporations, you can go for 20, 25K and do a better job. And make a killer living doing that, because it's not that hard if you, again, cared. That's the main thing. I think it doesn't come down to skill. It comes down to that if you care, you're going to put an effort, you're going to make the event nicer, their event's going to be nicer, and they're going to hire you again and recommend you again. And it's, it's a cycle. But again, and the only reason I think it is the way it is, the industry, is it's a monopoly. I say monopoly, it's like a thropoly or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like they have a fixed choice.
It's an easy pick.
And it's like, oh, we don't have to fight for our work. We don't have to work hard. And a lot of times they even put fines on them. Our clients have to pay like a fee to bring an outside vendor. And I'm like, that's never made sense to me.
We've had that at the ministry a few times. We were at the convention center, and we had still had to pay for all our operators to be there.
Yeah.
It's like we brought all our own equipment, we hooked in, we did everything, but there was a guy sitting in a chair, we had to pay him.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to, and it's so, and then it's not even their person. That's what I'm saying. It's like this third party company that has the deal with them or whatever, right? And you have no choice. Yeah. And you either accept it or you don't. That's just how it is. And in a city like Orlando, where, like I said, there's conferences and events happening literally every day, like tens of them. The amount of work that's out there is crazy, and you just have to convert a few of them. You don't need all of them. I think that's a killer way to make a living. And like I said, as long as you learn, and I think churches and places of like I said, worship are the best places to learn this, because like I said, they're more willing to let newbies come in. I think once you become an expert, this is a very good path to follow. And like I said, may not be for everyone. Maybe you go in thinking, "Oh, I'll do live," and then you come back and go, it wasn't for me." That's okay. At least you'll still learn video production skills because you're still operating cameras, you're still switching, which is kind of like editing. You're still learning storytelling and all that. So I think there's still something to be gained.
Yeah.
Obviously, more so if you want to do live after, but there's still something, to so is that what you think with Quentin, that you guys will target more live all this conference work that's happening,
Hopefully.
and then be able to like take over at least some of it, and that's like I said, it's huge money. So
Yeah. That and potentially like integration.
Mhm.
A lot of churches are running really old stuff.
Yeah.
They've never put money behind it. So, maybe bring us in to update the system. And
So you're just going church to church and just updating the system, making it better, making it
then
more
doing
modern.
trainings on that
Yeah.
system. Yeah.
That's pretty cool too, because there's so much money in education. I've
Yeah.
done funny, like I said, I'm an Indian, so I'm not a Christian, but I've done so many trainings for churches where they've hired me as a consultant, where I've gone and like shown them how to basically do it better,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, there's so much money in just consultancy, which is what kind of this would be, right? Education, because and so not only there's money, but then also like I said, you're again updating their system, you're helping them kind of get up to date on the right way to do it, because they're again probably stuck in old ways, and most of them probably, like I said, been in 2020 and just bought whatever they could and now they're stuck with that because that's whatever was available.
And unfortunately just pieced it together over time, where at some point you need to overhaul and actually make it volunteer friendly, make the system. And that's something that like I love, again, going back to the technical side. If I can spend the time and program it right and make it really easy for somebody to operate, like that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, you can make it easy where volunteers can step in and get it done. And who knows, maybe you can also spark interest in those volunteers to now one day become filmmakers or whatever. And that's like you said, a lot of people are learning. I'm seeing the spark starts that way, like either through their place of worship or through skateboarding or through BMX or stuff like that, where they just love their hobby and they just want to film that hobby, and then it becomes into this, I actually enjoy filmmaking more than my hobby, and I want to make a career out of it. And I feel like any opportunity where you can have that spark show up is a good opportunity, because until people actually experience it, they have no idea, if they like it or not. And like you said, live can be very daunting for a volunteer, and if it can already be programmed, it's better for the church anyway, because it's like all ready to go. But then it can make it very easy for a volunteer to just step in and go, this is what I do. Okay, I can press the buttons, I can switch, right? Because I don't have to like program these transitions or whatever else you're programming, things like that. Do you think there's money in there? Like what kind of money can typically? And again, I know we're guesstimating here, but what do you think like a typical small, medium-sized church would pay for something like that?
Oh man, it really just depends, because I mean, a lot of the budget would be going in, putting in new gear. A lot of it's going to have to be a full, complete redo of the system. So
what are we looking up saying? Like, let's look at scale, because like you said, it'll vary.
Yeah.
So it'd be like a low end to a high end. And
I mean, like, most churches, I think, could probably get away with like a Behringer X32 and stage rack. So that's, 3,000-4,000, an ATEM Mini and a couple cameras, again, 4,000 or 5,000. I'm not really that into sound. I would love to learn more, but I'm just not in that world yet. So, PA, amps, all that, that's another big chunk of money. That's honestly where I think most churches are going to spend the most money. That's the thing that matters most. Good audio matters a lot. And, we're looking at potentially a weekend, Friday, Saturday install, Sunday into Monday training. And one weekend, get everybody set up, and then maybe a few months down the line, another consultation.
Okay, so you're thinking maybe what? That sounds like about 15, 20K, I'm guessing.
Probably.
Something like that. And is there profit in that? Because again, you're buying expensive equipment technically.
Yeah.
So you're just thinking what? Rates for the technicians for the 3-4 days? So Okay, so that's not bad. I
Yeah.
mean, and like I said, the good thing about churches is they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, not as many Florida, but they're still everywhere. But the thing is, nothing limits you from just Florida, right? Technically, nothing
No.
stops you guys from going to this in the Bible Belt, like which is what Texas,
Yeah.
Alabama, Mississippi, all these states, like that, and that have a lot of churches,
For sure.
and then obviously the rest of the country.
There's some big companies out there. Summit Integrations.
Mhm.
I followed them for a long time. Churchfront is another one that
Mhm.
does this remotely. Kind of looking at their strategies and copying their homework a little bit.
Look at that. Look at
Yeah.
that. And that's very smart. I'm all about, see, a lot of people think like you have to be like extremely original. Yes, if you have an original idea, be original. But a lot of times, if all you're trying to do is like help, for example, in your case, in Quentin's case, trying to help, let's say, churches integrate, just look at who's market leader or the top 3 market leaders and then study them as homework and maybe copy them or I don't know, iterate on what their work is. Point is, you don't have to be that original, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like go, oh, I have to have this unique, extremely unique offer. I don't think you do. I think as long as you have a good offer, right? And if you go like, hey, here's the market leader, they're offering this to you for this price, maybe I can do it for 10% cheaper, 20% cheaper, or whatever, right? That could be a good start. Now, eventually, I do think that when you guys become, set in the market, you can then go start your unique offerings or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think people need to like immediately go, I'm going to do something unique. Like, I think if they're trying to do what I do, which is corporate video, you can only do interviews so many different. Now, sure, there's a scale of it. There's, putting a phone in front of someone and, doing it with like, I don't know, Alexa 65 or whatever, right? There's a scale, but still at the end of the day, once you master interview, you master interview.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you need to fight that, Like, I wouldn't go like, oh, no, where are you? Interviews are going to be extremely unique. No, you're going to just do interview. Why don't you just learn it and start doing them until you've done a few hundred, then maybe you can, I don't know, come up with like a custom unique option.
Sure.
I think that's easiest way to make money is when you study the market and you just follow with it instead of just immediately when you have zero market experience trying to, I don't know, innovate.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, and I'm not saying it cannot be done, but I feel like it's a wrong business strategy when you don't have any revenue to go and try to something really crazy that you haven't even tested the market with. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not into the business side,
Yeah.
but hey, I'm here to fill a client's need. If they need the interview like they've always had, I can give them the interview they've always had.
Yeah, I don't know why we need to like I said, start something brand new immediately. Especially like I said, when you're not experienced, like you said, in business or whatever, when somebody's new. What makes you not be interested in business? So my thing is, even if you are let's say just working with Quentin, you'll be the technical guy, right?
Yeah.
You're still, you have to sell yourself in life
Sure.
24/7. I feel like that's just life is. So do you think that's going to be a disadvantage for you, not being interested in business or any of that?
It for sure will be, and I need to learn more. I definitely need to push myself out of my comfort zone in that way.
What do you think? What makes you not interested in it? It's just you don't care, or it's just, I don't know.
It's daunting. There's a lot there that I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I love my technical stuff and I just want to live in that bubble. I know I can't do that forever, but
yeah, no, I feel you because I'm an introvert. A lot of people in the video field don't know that, but like that's because I'm an expert in the field, so I can talk about it. But like if I go sit in a, I don't know, with some people and they start talking about something I don't know about, like I said, outside of technical stuff or video stuff, I'm an introvert. I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. I'm probably going to be quiet as hell. But no, that's something that is very not not a good trait to have, in my opinion. Not that again you can change it.
Yeah,
who you are is who you are, right? But at the same time, let's say you're even the technician. In my opinion, you show up, and if you're just quiet doing your own thing, people are gonna think, oh, he was rude or whatever, right?
Sure.
That's just the perception I'm saying, and perception is reality. You want to be the guy who's like friendly and talking, and not because And just because then people, they like the experience, they like have it being you around. And I don't think that means being fake,
Yeah.
but that also just, I don't know. I feel like that's what I've learned as an introvert who runs a business, that you have to be good at communication, and,
For
and
sure.
even if you don't want to be, because at the end of the day, that's what makes this part of client experience, and it is very important, because even if you may be there's programming ATEM, programming the cameras, if you're not like, if you're just like, I don't know, I feel like not friendly or not talking or whatever, then clients may just perceive as, oh, he was just rude or whatever, or he was
Mm.
helpful or whatever, and then you don't want to have that perception. Have you experienced that in life, or have you noticed that at least
Yeah, I
when
mean,
yeah.
I definitely need to, like I said, push myself in that way. But I feel like, face to face, I'm all right in that
Yeah.
way. It's just the client relations, cold calls, like, the management behind the scenes, that is not my cup of tea. I mean, I can be personal. I'm all right in that way.
Yeah. So what's your camera of choice? I know you've shot FX3 with me, FX6 with me. I know you use Blackmagic with the
Mhm.
ministry. What other camera systems? Do you have a preference out of all this that you like, or
I like Sony a lot.
yeah?
It's easy to make it do what I need it to do in the moment. It's just so flexible. I've actually sold most of the gear that I have. I have a A7C2 in my backpack. But yeah, I really gravitate to the FX3, FX6.
Because you don't need any gear anymore, right? Because again, they provide everything for you. But do you lean towards FX3 or FX6? What's your style between the two? Are you like more like compact, hybrid, or do you like more beefy body, more rigged out or whatever?
It really depends on the production. So if I'm doing an event shoot,
Mm.
like I did with you, generally I would do FX3 handheld.
Mhm.
I can just get in tighter, move faster. But if it's a live stream or an interview or something, I'll go for the FX6 all day long.
Okay. So that makes sense. So you're because I know everyone has style. Like I'm more FX6 guy, but again, a lot of events we use FX3 on a gimbal. That's kind of what you did for me, and that's just because you got to be able to go, but you got to also be able to be smooth and things like that. Um, do you think like that this is this has gotten all like similar? My only issue is that everything's now Sony, so there's a certain look that Sony's bring, which is not a bad look.
Yeah.
But if everyone's shooting Sony, then everything starts to look, unless you purposefully. And I'm also not a big fan of purposefully making footage teal and blue or green, giving a certain look just because you want to be different. But typically these cameras have looks, and I think the Sony look is now so overused. Do you see that as an issue, or no? That everything's gonna just look the same?
I mean, to a point, as long as you're delivering a good product that the client's happy with, I'm happy. And I feel like Sony can just do that so consistently. And a lot of it does come down to taste. I'm super not into the crazy LUTs, teal and orange like you're talking about, but I do like a very contrasty, punchy image. And I feel like that's not super trendy at the moment. So hopefully I stand out just by that. But
yeah, no, right now the whole filter thing is in, which I'm not a big fan of the popular one. People throw what is it, Black Promise.
Promise.
Yeah, I like the Hollywood Blackmagic better, just because I feel like the way it renders highlights is nicer. Which I don't know if you've noticed that FX6 highlight response is terrible. So I feel like as soon as you throw like a Promise on, it looks even more horrible. Because it creates that halation even at the lowest setting, and most people are not using 1/8; they're using like quarter or whatever. And I'm like, this is too much on a camera that's already halating by itself. I don't know, in highlights. So I don't like that look. But yeah, you're right. That's like very common and popular now, and even not Blackmagic. Even there's other companies now. Everyone has a mist option that people are throwing in, right?
I'm a sucker for it a little bit. I have the short stash everyday filter on my camera right now. It's a quarter mist and circular polarizer.
Okay,
it's a great everyday for street photography or stuff. But I'm not a huge fan on for video.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I really like HBM, so I do use it. I use HBM 1/8, but that too, like I said, eighth, and I do like it because it doesn't cause as much halation. I like the way it renders highlights better. But like I said, I'm still not a fan because I personally am not a like on Alexa, amazing. I use it all the time. But like I don't know, FX6 response to me is just I don't know. I'm not a fan of putting more mist on I'm saying FX6 sensor.
Yeah.
But that's a common theme. I find most people have learned about filters, so it's like and every ND is coming up with a mist built into type of thing. So it's like it's everywhere. That low contrast image is like really out there right now.
Yeah.
But no, it's
I'm
good
not a
though.
fan.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. I mean,
I like high contrast,
yeah,
dark shadows.
yeah. No, I do like
Punchy
to
color.
crush my shadows too. I do like like I said, I don't have an issue with low contrast look. I think it's a good look, but I think it's overdone. But so is gimbal usage. I think it's overdone nowadays. It's like everything's just a similar look, and it's just like again.
I really don't end up using a gimbal too much. I mean, for the ministry, everything we're doing is really fast run and gun. We do a lot of worship music, so it's a lot of basically concert-esque. So I like to get handheld movement.
Yeah, no, I like handheld movement. I think it's more, especially if it's done right. Especially that's when I love FX3 over FX6. I really like the IBIS.
Yeah,
it's not the strongest, but it can help with that handheld because getting those punching in, getting those close-ups with like a 70 to 200, I think is incredible look. And FX3 is so perfect because that IBIS and the lens and the camera works together.
Yeah,
and I think it gives you enough stabilization where you can get away with the handheld look, and it just looks so natural and looks nice, and you don't have to use the gimbal or whatever.
Yeah,
and it'd be hard anyway with a 70 to 200. That's like one of my favorite things, and like I said, I would love for you to do on that event that I'm thinking about bringing you to. That'd be really cool if you can switch between like a 24-70 and a 70-200 and get me close-ups, because I think that's just an incredible look to get. But yeah, that's pretty neat. So this is like I said, I love the technical side of where we're touching in. Do you like to go? Do you use anything auto or no? You're just all manual.
Mostly manual. I mean, for photography, I'll generally set it to aperture priority. Just let the ISO figure it out. But for video, I'm pretty manual at everything.
So are you still doing photography like paid, or is it just more like enough for fun?
I do paid photography very scarcely. We just did a maternity shoot. My wife and I will do it. I don't. The same reason I don't prefer weddings. I don't like working with individual families that are really picky. One of the worst experiences I had, I did a graduation shoot, and all the photos of the graduate were phenomenal, but the mom didn't want to pay me because her 5-year-old had glare in his glasses on one of the photos. I was like,
what?
Okay. Like I don't want to deal with people.
Yeah.
So I stay away from photos. Did they finally pay you at least? Yeah. Okay. They worked it out. But it was like, it wasn't even a photo of the graduate.
Yeah.
And it came into a big fuss. I was like, all right, I don't need this stress.
Yeah.
So I kind of stay away from photos for that. But I do love photos. I still do a lot of event photos, just, around churches, or, I'll take Hannah out and we'll go to the beach, take, some portraits or whatever.
Okay. So it's more like fun and occasional pay.
It's my way to get my creative out.
Yeah, so you're still focused mostly on making money through video, right? Yeah, which makes sense. And that's how we've always worked together, through video. How was the networking event? So that was really cool. So you attended the networking event with Quentin, and we did it at CFAN. So that was really cool.
It worked out.
I know, how's your experience meeting people, getting out there, talking to other people who are like doing that freelance journey? And obviously some of them were like you, who had a full-time job too. So how was that? Tell me about that experience, meeting everyone.
It was really actually very interesting. I don't know anybody, I'm the worst video guy. I don't have any contacts. So it was really cool getting plugged into the group. I've known Quentin for a while. So getting to work with him and seeing other people in the group is really helpful.
Did you meet any notable people where you were like, oh, this could help me, or at least give you inspiration or something like that? I don't know. Did you have any meaningful conversations where it changed your perspective, or at least, because I know we also did the educational segments. He had 3 people speak. There was a lot going on that day. So I'm like, I don't know if did any of that change your perspective or open your mind or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to really absorb as much as I can. Unfortunately, I'm just not ready to jump ship yet. So a lot of it's kind of gathering information and then holding it away for later. So I didn't really feel like I applied too much right away. But it's really good to get that knowledge for when I'm ready to jump and to make connections. Same thing for when I'm ready.
Yeah, because it'll be very easy now. You can go at all the people that you met, right? Like, hey, I'm freelancing now, or whatever. I'm available to hire or whatever,
Yeah.
and you never know what comes your way. And that's, I think, the part of what these meetups are, right? You just meet variety of people, all the different skill set, all the different positions, and you never know what happens.
Yeah.
Because then maybe somebody you end up hiring because you need a freelancer, or the other way around, they need somebody and you they get to hire you, but that wouldn't have happened had you not met these people.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have met them had somebody not put up a meetup together. And you can get some valuable information out of it because, he had, like I think Alex and Adam speak about some really cool stuff. Like even I learned, I'm not charging for storage, even though my storage costs are crazy. Like I got to show you the server before you go. So it's like, that all costs money. And if you're not accounting for, in the client invoices or whatever, it may not be direct. I don't know if I'll put like a storage fee in there.
Sure.
And again, you could, but it needs to be built into my calculation because it's like that is a cost, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until that day. I was like, ooh, that's a very valid point. Why am I not including that whenever I do my internal calculation that is a cost that I have and then I have to bear? So things like that, you learn a lot that may be simple, but that you didn't think for or you didn't count for it because you're not thinking about it. And that type of cost applies to everyone because even if you're a DP or whatever, shot for someone, you're still storing their footage, because guess what? Clients will 6 months later reach out and say, hey, do you still have it? And if you have it, a negative experience if you deleted it, which is fair, obviously, because there's cost. And if you do have it, that's great. But now that means for 6 months you were using a hard drive or somewhere, all that data, that means you had costs that you didn't charge for. So something like that. I feel like those are really good. So I'm glad you attended one. Can't wait for you to attend more and meet more and more people. And maybe that'll help you in any way. I don't know what it will be. You never know who you meet, and they may just be like, oh, there's a gig or there's this or whatever that's like big enough or right enough, or you go, ooh, this is exactly what I need. And then you jump ship. Or even if you don't, the one thing I do like about you is like you're able to do enough freelance work without having to compromise your job in any way. So you don't have to essentially quit, right? Unless you have enough work where.
And I like it at the ministry. I'm not looking to leave. If I can do both, if I can get enough side work to support my family and also stay at the ministry, I'm perfectly happy with that.
So is it just you? How many people are there? I know Quinton works, but he's like a contractor, right?
Yeah, we have 3 full-timers and then a handful of contractors.
Okay, and Quinton is a contractor, right? And that's how you met him. How long have you known him?
We started about the same time at the ministry. That was early 21. My hire date was like April 1st, and he had started on right before that.
Okay, so and then I know you guys are good friends. That's how I met you, because I needed someone, and he recommended you. And I think I came by. He wanted to do something at CFAN, and I don't even remember what we were doing, like some kind of camera test or something, right?
He just wanted like every camera he could get to shoot the same thing.
Yeah,
so
and I don't think he did anything out of it.
Yeah.
But it was still cool to hang out with, like I said, you, and we had Alex and a bunch of other people. And it was really cool to have like 10 cameras there, if not more.
Made for a good picture.
Yeah, I know. It's really cool. And that's the thing when I met you, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. We're like connecting because obviously you care about video and everything like that. And I was like, oh, that's really nice to meet somebody else technical, because that's where I found myself weird because I'm very business. I don't know if you can tell, like I'm running a company here. I'm very much like pro business and all that. But at the heart, I'm a very tech guy, right? I love to go to the core of, like, I don't know, the tech about the cameras and like the lighting and everything. And I'll go immerse myself, like I'll obsess over and then want to learn everything to do with it. And that's what got me into video initially, because it was so tech focused. But I don't like bring it up with most people because most people don't care about it that way, right? Most people are like, talk to me about the images or the creativity, which is cool. I love that too. But I'm just saying most people don't care about like what ISO are using, what aperture you're using, and why are you using that? What look is that giving, or all that? The technical part of it. And I love how a certain aperture or shutter speed or whatever it can do to the image, and
Yeah.
how can I manipulate it to do whatever I want it to do or
And
whatever.
especially on the Sony cameras
Yeah.
where the levels of dynamic range change on the ISOs.
Yes.
So it's like counterintuitive. You want a higher ISO when it's brighter outside because you have more highlight retention, and it gets really nerdy
right?
really fast.
Yeah, and once you actually start to really dive into that, you go, oh, or like my favorite camera before this, actually technically still my favorite sensor, I would say, on the lower, I would say under 20K cameras, was the C70, because that DJI sensor. And I loved it because it had one of the best shadow responses than I would say any sensor I've used outside of Alexa's. And I was like, oh, I can actually purposefully underexpose image, which you don't do on most cameras because
Yeah.
it'll just kill your shadows. And same thing, very nerdy. I would love to do that. I'd be purposely, and a lot of people were like, why are you doing that? I was like, no, because I want to retain more highlights. And this is one of the rare cameras I can do that, because I know how much I can pull up from the shadows and stuff like that. Because, once you learn the sensor, what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And like I was like, now will I do that with these Sonys? No, but I love doing that with the C70. So kind of like that, and that's like I was saying, I love getting into the nerdy part about it. But you can't, and that's what I would even suggest to people, like, you can do it with your friends, but when you go to a client, they don't care. They don't care what camera you have, what settings you're using, and rather that can be a detriment. It'd be like I think I had David on the podcast a while back where we were discussing, and he was like, imagine if you called a plumber and he spent 10 minutes telling you about how nice and shiny his crescent wrench is while you have a leak going on, right? And you go, just fix the freaking leak. And it's kind of like that. We can get all nerdy about this camera can do this is how much dynamic range I have or whatever, while the client goes, I just want to get this video done. Can we film the CEO, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's why it's cool to know each other, where we can nerd out about this stuff while we're not annoying the client talking about how beautiful our camera is, where they don't care. Usually, like I said, they like the big size if you have a camera that looks big, or they don't care. It's one or the other. And even then, they'll just say, oh, that's a nice big camera. Or it's so funny. This is rare, but I was on a shoot recently where we pulled out the two FX6s because it was an interview. So it's my A and B cameras, and my FX6 are rigged pretty decently, matte box, with a V mount and all that. But anyway, the client goes, do you ever use bigger cameras? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What bigger cameras? Like in my brain, I was like, yeah, I mean, depends on the job. It's like they get more expensive. I don't know if they'd get any bigger than this, Sure, I could rig more things to it, but, that's unnecessary. But anyway, so I'm saying that's also happened. That's rare. But where the client goes, do you want to use anything bigger? I'm like, this is already fairly big to me right now because, I could pull an FX3 and get 95% of the image for this tiny body.
Yeah.
But clients are like that. You never know. They'll say the weirdest things, where it can throw you off for a loop for a second. You're like, what? Or usually they say, oh, that's a very big camera. That must be very expensive. I'm like, well, it is decently expensive, but it's not because it's bigger. It's just because it costs what it costs. But anyway, I'm saying outside that, clients don't really care. The size or the quality of your camera or whatever.
And it's so funny now, like, the Raptor X and the Burano, they're basically the same size for way more money. It's like, yeah, you can spend a whole lot more money, but it's not going to look that different.
Yeah, it's a 5-10%. And now it does matter when the budget is high. So I've had people ask, like, and this is like, and you would probably get this, what I'm saying, like a lot of filmmakers typically don't get this. They go, I don't get it. My FX3 looks so good. Why would I ever use a red or which reds are not used that common anymore? But I'm just saying, like, why would I use a V Raptor or an Alexa Mini LF or whatever, or 65 or 35 or whatever? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like, it's hard to first explain if you have no idea. But I'm like, it's like, think of this way. Why would you not use a cell phone then? It's the same scale, right? It's like, if a client pays you money, why aren't you using a cell phone? Why aren't you using an FX3? Why are you using an FX6 or whatever camera? So the scale goes whatever. But you're right. At the end of the day, it's like 5%. Once you get to a certain level, which cameras are so good now, you're chasing pixels, right? You're like chasing very minute percentages. Now that matters. Like I'll tell you when a client's paying me 30 grand a day, they expect me to use the best, and I'm going to use the best tools. And I find, now this may be a personal thing, but I'm pretty sure it's to everyone because Alexa's everywhere. Like I'll rent minis or mini LFs. That's like the camera I typically rent. And I'm using them because the skin tone is so beautiful. And especially when you're filming like people with various different skin tones, right? I love how it renders not only Caucasian skin tone, but also darker skin tones. And I haven't seen cameras that can make skin tone look so creamy and nice. It doesn't matter the money. Now, yes, does that mean if I put a Burano there or an FX6 there, the skin tone's just going to be trash? No. You know what I mean? But it's like that. It's like the scale, right? Where it's like, hey, we want a corporate video done. Okay, what can you spend with me? 5K. Well, we're using the FX6s because that's what's in the budget. I don't have 5 grand to go rent cameras when the whole video is 5 grand.
Right.
But now if you're like, hey, yeah, we're doing something high end, budget is like 20, 30K, we can afford to do that on this video. Then I'm like, it would be disservice. Now, could I shoot it with the FX6? Yes. But then could I shoot it with an iPhone? Yes. But I'm going to use the better tool because I want the people to look at their best, just like why I would bring a hair and makeup artist. Right, I would bring an HMU because I want the client to look their best. I'm going to bring in Alexa because I want their skin tone to look the best. Not that it's necessary, right? Just like on a 5 grand video, nothing stops us from using a cell phone. And I'm pretty sure, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I would have not said this a few years ago, but now an iPhone 16 Pro Max or whatever on log is very good image.
It's really good.
Yeah, with good lighting, because lighting makes a bigger difference than the camera. So if you do good lighting, you technically use that. But am I going to? No, because I have a better tool that will render again skin tones better than that. That'll give me better dynamic range. Even though I know iPhones can fake better dynamic range, but you know what I mean. Like, I love that about the FX6 is that the image is really good. It's really creamy. It's really nice. But now again, I'm not going to compare that to the Alexa. But I'm not going to use the Alexa if I have enough money. If I don't have enough money to go rent them and make enough profit. Simply as that. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like I've had that happen where people go the scale. So I don't think you need anything more than an iPhone nowadays, but you will because you have the more budget, right?
Yeah.
If the client says I have a higher budget, then you use a better tool.
Well, in that same vein, the scale also doesn't have to be a vertical scale, but there's so many phenomenal options in the same price point. You really can pick the option that fits the shoot best. So if I'm super run and gun, I just need to put something in my backpack and go get footage, I grab the FX3. But if I'm going to do it, with time code and with, more ports and whatever, I can grab an FX6, or just want the best image quality, I can go get a Komodo X. Or it's awesome that everything has such a phenomenal bar of quality now that now I'm not even thinking about, can I get the image I want? But it's like, what's going to make my life easier, or what's going to fit this production better? Built-in NDs versus IBIS versus, whatever.
And I think also it's about the right tool for the right job, right? If a client hires me and they want their content to look like UCG, I'm using an iPhone. It's not about money. It's about that's the right tool because it's going to look like a user made it. Versus, if I throw an FX6, it's going to look like a professional image, and that's not the right tool. So you also use the right tool, and that's why I tell people, like, look, yes, your iPhone's great, your FX3 is great, your Komodo is great. Nowadays, camera doesn't matter. You know what matters to me, at least, that can make or break a shot? Lighting, sound. People will watch a terrible looking video because they're used to it. Crappy content is everywhere. They will not listen to a crappy sound. They will not listen to, or they won't look at the videos in lit well or whatever, something like that. So I think you're better off spending more time and effort into lighting and sound than camera, which is crazy coming from me. To me, I'm a camera guy first, then lighting and sound and all that. But that's just what it is. Don't you agree? Don't you think like it makes such a bigger difference than any camera would? Because you're splitting hairs, right? It's like, to me personally, difference between Alexa and FX6 is just that. It's skin tones. So it's not that huge. It's important, but it's not worth 50 grand camera versus 6 grand camera, right? Yes, we'll use the right tool because, I have more money. Sure, I'll rent the better tool. And I'm sure my clients deserve or expect that we'll use the best tool for the job because they're paying us top dollar. But it's not like that huge of a difference that's like I wouldn't go buy it is what I'm saying anymore.
Right.
Like in the past, having bought an Alexa, I wouldn't buy it anymore now. I don't think it's worth owning it because the times I'm needing it, I can charge my client and they're happy to pay it. And if it's not the right tool for the job, they're not paying it anyway. So it doesn't matter. So I don't think those tools make any more sense owning them unless you again want to operate a rental house. That's different. But yeah, that's another thing people go into, like, you don't have to buy gear anymore, just rent it. And as the gear gets better, I think you can bill your client for it. So if you need it, just rent it. And if you don't need it.
Yeah.
Don't need to invest in it or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what kind of the boat I'm in. I'm trying to, like I said before, I've sold basically everything I have, and I have an A7C2 and a 40 mil prime just for photos and stuff. But I'm really looking at what's like the minimum viable package for me. And I think I'm probably going to go FX6 route, a 300 in a softbox, a couple tubes, just a really basic package. And that'll get like 90% of what I need.
And the rest you can always rent, right?
Yeah.
If you need it, you can rent it, and otherwise you're good. And that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you're right. I think most people just need one package, and or maybe it could be a camera, maybe a good A camera, maybe a decent B camera, and that's about it. And you can do 90% of corporate commercial work, and anything else you can always rent. You can always add to your package. Like I said, I've got a whole van out there to rent, so it's not like there's limitation on what equipment you can find, and it's a better investment too, because then your startup cost to going freelance wouldn't be that high, right?
Yeah.
You can go now instead of like, oh, let me save 10 years to get this stupid package that will be old anyway by that time, because cameras age like so poorly. Like I said, they look so good, but the new ones come out, like especially Sony, they're churning out, I feel like, new bodies every 6 months, and it's like
I'm kind of sad though, because it looks like we're not going to get a FX3 or FX6 upgrade for a little while.
I have heard, and again, these are rumors. I've heard something is coming, but again, I don't know. I don't want to speak on rumors, but the good thing is, or I said good. The crazy thing is, for me at least, the demand for FX6s is so high that I don't think it's going to change like immediately, even if they tomorrow announced, oh, there's an FX6 Mark II or whatever. Like I said, I don't think it's going to make FX6 tomorrow be like redundant, because the image is good and they're being used everywhere. I mean, reality shows are 90% right now, just FX6s, maybe with FX3 thrown in.
I don't know what Sony could do. I mean, like, there's a lot that they could prove, ergonomics wise. Like, I would love a better screen built in. I'd love, audio on body.
Yeah.
I'd love the AI autofocus like we have on the A7C2.
I think that's where it's probably going to be.
I don't think image quality is going to change.
Now, I don't know how much Burano. I think Burano is the perfect idea of what an FX6 Mark II could be.
Yeah.
Not that, I'm saying it's guaranteed, but I'm saying usually when you look at companies, that's what happens, right? It comes to the higher end, then it trickles down to the lower end. And the only thing I foresee personally is, based on Burano finally being able to get IBIS and ND together, and then also the whole AI stuff that they're doing now in their cheaper bodies that will trickle up type of thing. But yes, you're right. Like the sensor's already this good. Now, obviously, we can all hypothetically say we would love more dynamic range, we would love better codecs, we would love more options. Because I don't know why they don't give you their H.265 codec on FX6. Makes no sense to me. The naming scheme on clip format, like I love the way on FX3, like again, I can go on a tangent. You can label them, with the date automatically in the file names. Makes it so easy. You can do that on FX6s. Doesn't make sense. Why not?
That's my biggest gripe with Sony, that they release a firmware and then don't go back retroactively and fix it across the board.
So it's like they've added, like you said, things at the lower end and the higher end, and typically I'm saying when they'll release it, it'll just trickle up and down.
Yeah.
But to be real, it's not that much. But at the same time, again, the way at least I invest in my gear is wherever the industry goes. If tomorrow they launch an FX6 Mark II or FX9 Mark II or whatever, and that's what everyone's using, then that's where I'll buy, because I'm running a company, right? To me, it's ROI. It's like, is the demand there? Is my cameras going to work? Sure, I'll buy it. But if the demand won't shift, like Burano, so immediately as Burano was announced, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy two. that's going to become my primary A and B camera. But then they launched, and I was just waiting. I was waiting for a reason. You know, the way I buy gear, somebody's like, "Hey, we need 2 Buranos." Okay, I'm ready to invest, so let me buy them instead of renting them. But then I didn't get any calls. Nobody called me. It was like either they didn't care, same thing where like we were talking with Blackmagic, they don't care, just use whatever.
Yeah.
Or they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna use FX6s or FX3s," or "Hey, can you use Alexa?" Right? It's either nothing. That's what I hear at least. I would love to know people in comment are feeling differently or hearing differently, but it's like just use whatever or use FX6 or Alexa if they have a high budget. But that's it. I haven't heard the word even red, which is so crazy to me. It used to be common last few years. It's like nobody's demanding for that. I'm saying you can use it, but nobody's like calling to say like, "Hey, I'm an agency. Can you do this shoot for me? Can you please shoot on Red or can you please shoot on Nikon or Canon or whatever?" I haven't heard those words in at least I would say 2 years, which is crazy to hear. That's the market was so consolidated. I'm saying by the FX6 and FX3s because they were so good.
Yeah.
Like I said, technically the cameras are old, but
Pretty
but
old,
they
yeah.
consolidated the market so well that, and that's why I told people like invest in them even now because I don't think market is gonna like in one day fully switch because markets don't change that fast.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, I'd be happy to. Like I said, I want to personally buy Buranos. I think it fits well in my workflow. Plus, I like that I can use my E-mount lenses and all that. You know, so I see use for it. But like I said, I'm just waiting for demand, and I haven't gotten any calls for it. And I'm like, it'd be silly for me, and I'm sure I could if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, we need to FX6," and I'd be like, "Yeah, we can upgrade you to Burano." But then I'm like, that makes no sense to me. If they're just calling for FX6, just use the FX6 that we have. So that's the only reason I haven't bought Buranos right now. So anyway, the point is, you're right. I don't know what they can do. There is obviously things they can fix, but those things could technically already be fixed by firmware and FX6 if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to. I don't know what it would take to bring the H.265 codecs, but I think they should be there because the M1 Max cut through H.265 footage like butter. And I don't know why we don't have that because it's on FX3. So, you know, stuff like that. I'm saying they could potentially add it if they wanted to, but if not, you know, we'll wait till Mark II, see what happens. And then I would love to see, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wait to see if everyone just goes crazy on them and then the market just switch. Then sure, I'll happily buy a couple.
Yeah.
But if not, then I think I'm happy. As far as quality goes, I'm not really missing anything. So yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, look at us. It's already been 2 hours. This was an incredible conversation. Thank you again for coming and talking with me. I hope this was fun. Before we go, anything else you want to say or add and tell people where to follow you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, andrew.keller.media. And yeah, it was great to be on the show.
Thank you, Andrew. Always a pleasure talking to you and can't wait to talk again in the future.
Yeah, man.